If you're often finding yourself feeling overwhelmed and you feel really stuck in that situation, this video is for you. My name is Ximena Ramirez. I am a behavior change coach and I am the director of coaching and program strategy at Body Brain Alliance. Why do we get overwhelmed and what does it mean? I work with a lot of clients in coaching that are experiencing this quite often, and they are finding themselves procrastinating or avoiding doing things or feeling very stressed, and they're wondering why this is happening. Why, even though they have the tools, they are still finding themselves in these situations. Now, I want to first of all let you know that this is a very normal situation, and it is just a way that our brain has of dealing with the distress that it's feeling for one reason or another. Our brain is mainly seeking relief from those things. So you're not really alone in finding yourself overwhelmed or avoiding things or feeling like you are distracting yourself on purpose to avoid all these emotions that are coming with the overwhelm. So I'm going to give you some tips now so that you can manage that overwhelm, and you can do so in a way that really allows you to take action and lead with acceptance. Overwhelm is basically that perception that we have more demands than resources. And this could be actually correct or not, but regardless, we can still validate how this is making us feel. It tends to create this very intense turmoil, and it also tends to create a lot of guilt sometimes. Another thing is that we tend to assign some meanings to feeling overwhelmed. And overwhelm has nothing to do with your ability to get organized, to achieve things. You can have everything organized, you can feel like everything is on point, and yet still see that overwhelm coming. One thing to notice is that overwhelm is not going to go away. You can learn to manage your brain, but we can't avoid overwhelm. So what we want to learn is how we are going to be responding to overwhelm instead of reacting to it. Instead of having that normal reflex that we would have when we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling like everything is too much, when we be paralyzed, we want to learn how to navigate that in a more mindful way. We all experience overwhelm. It is a part of our experience as humans. It is a way that our brain has with dealing with this type of situations and dealing with a world that is constantly overstimulating us and presenting numerous commitments. But we can learn to manage our mind, and we can learn to navigate that more authentically and intentionally. I can tell you that even having all the tools myself as a coach, I recently had an experience where I had to pack for a month-long trip, and I was finding myself feeling very overwhelmed. I felt like it was hard to validate that because I was telling myself, I have a packing checklist, everything is done. I have already created all my systems when I leave my house and for the things I need to do when I come back. Everything seems to be in order. Why am I feeling overwhelmed if clearly my demands are not outweighing my resources? However, only because I felt that way, it didn't mean that the overwhelm was not going to be present, right? I could really validate that and actually deny myself of that possibility of feeling that way, knowing that it was normal, knowing that it was part of being human would only make things worse. So instead, I chose to use the exact tools that I'm going to teach you here and that we teach our clients. What can we do about that? How do we take action when we are feeling very overwhelmed? The first thing that I want to encourage you to do is to grab a piece of paper and to write down everything that you feel is looming on you. All those demands that feel really, really big right now. Try to think about every single thing that your brain is telling you that you're not on top of, that you should be taking care of that you're now, or that you should be trying to have a plan for, and write everything down. After this, we are going to focus on the resources that you have. What are some things that are leading you to feel or think as if you don't have enough resources? What is telling you that you don't have enough time or energy or anything else to satisfy those demands that you wrote down before? And also, is this even correct? We want to also understand what are some priorities that you can extract from the to-do list that you created or from the demands list that you created. Prioritizing is going to help you make a choice between all those conflicting demands. Prioritizing can also entail some mind drama because it will take your brain to accept that it can't do everything and that it needs to make some choices. However, this is where I want to encourage you to lead with acceptance on how this has nothing to do with your ability or your capabilities to work on those things. Prioritizing is not a way of dropping the ball. Prioritizing is actually a way of being more intentional about making decisions regarding what needs your attention the most and using your resources more strategically. So give yourself permission to choose what you need to do now, what you need to do later, what you need to do someday, what you can delegate, what you can outsource, and try to make some choices around that. After you completed this, I want to encourage you to think about taking things one thing at a time. You don't need to resolve everything right now. You don't need to have an answer to everything right now. You don't need to have everything figured out before starting. You can trust your own ability to figure things out as you go. So taking things one thing at a time means that you're going to focus on the thing that is right in front of you, the first thing on your list, and move from there one at a time. The only thing that matters is that thing that you're going to focus on at this time. When I was working on packing, what I did is I actually had everything laid out already, and I focused on just grabbing one piece of clothing, one thing that I needed to put in my suitcase, one at a time. That was the only thing that I needed to focus on. I didn't need to focus on the 30 things that I needed to put in there and thinking about whether I was forgetting something or not. I was going to take it one thing at a time. I was going to grab one piece of clothing or whatever it was, put that into my luggage, move on to the next one. And then when I was done, I was going to move on to thinking, am I missing anything? Am I forgetting anything? What would happen if I don't have this other thing? And resolve that as I went. Focus on that first task at hand. Give that your full attention, choose how you will do that, get started with that, and then only move on to the next one or worry about the next one when you are there. I was just telling you about how important it is to really build that self-trust, that idea of how we are resourceful, we can figure things out as we go. And the last step, I would say, is something that is going to help your future self reduce that overwhelm or feel more in control of your own reactions or responses to overwhelm. And this is about using this experience to create self-trust. Now, this is something that can turn into a practice for you, and I want to encourage you to think about how, as you are doing those things, one thing at a time, with your focus on that task, take a moment to, as you are completing each task or everything that you're doing, give yourself some credit for what is happening. Allow yourself to feel better, to feel like you are creating more space, to feel like you are creating the conditions to feel less overwhelmed. Give yourself some credit for allowing yourself to take back some control out of that situation and to really step back and see how those little actions that you're taking are really making a dent in that bigger project that a couple of minutes ago felt monumental. So this is your doing. This is something that you are creating by taking small action. It may not be perfect, but also it doesn't need to be. Overwhelm is very much about that lack of control that we feel in a certain situation. Reclaiming that is a great way to show up more intentionally in how you want to respond in the future. Now, we would love to know if you have any comments about your own experience with overwhelm, or if you have tried this strategy at one point, or if you watched the video and didn't try it, and if you can come back and tell us how it felt for you, if it was helpful. If you will have liked this content, if you enjoyed this video, we would love for you to hit subscribe and to tell us what else you'd like to be seeing in our channel. Thank you.